Hi, Melissa. Nice to see
How's
you.
it
Nice to
going?
meet you.
Yes, very nice to meet you as well.
How was your first contact with Star Trek? If you already knew it, you had seen it in the series.
So the cool thing about Star Trek is one of those things that everybody knows about it, right? Like it's been a part of our lives since well before I was born. When I was younger, I watched Star Trek The Next Generation. So I knew the characters, I knew Commander Riker, I knew Geordi, I knew Worf, I knew Captain Picard, and I used to love the theme song. And I joke that like I could never not watch it from beginning to end. I didn't consider myself a huge Trek fan, you know, but I knew the show and I knew things about Star Trek and I knew things about Captain Kirk and William Shatner. The funny thing is when you book a role on Star Trek, you suddenly discover how many Trekkies you actually have in your life. You know, I discovered, you know, that I have friends and family members and people I know who were suddenly like, I am the biggest Star Trek fan ever. And this is the most amazing show. And I'm like, oh my God. And one of my brother-in-laws is a Trekkie, a lifetime Trekkie. And he has given Strange New Worlds like his full stamp of approval, like him and his group of friends, and they watched every single iteration of Star Trek, and he's like, Strange New Worlds is the best of everything. That to me is, you know, that means we've done something right.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
I love this job.
You have some kind of a crush in a character in The Next Generation, and you worked with him recently, haven't you?
Yeah.
So how was that?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know. I know I've said that before, but I don't even know where I've said that, but I have said that. And so sure, Commander Riker, Jonathan Frakes, he has the most incredible voice, right? That voice has not changed in all these years.
You're right.
And we were supposed to actually film with him for season 1, and he couldn't because I don't know the specifics, but it had something to do COVID related. He was directing on Picard at the time. Because of Picard shoots in the United States and we're shooting in Toronto, Canada, border restrictions last year for season 1 were just intense. I couldn't even go home to New York because each time you cross the border, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And so it would have thrown the schedule into a whole mess. And so we were all like, we didn't get to shoot with Jonathan Frakes. And everybody who's worked with him says that he's just so wonderful. Like he's just a genuinely great person, as well as a fantastic director, as well as an incredible actor, and really kind of, you know, this icon in the world of Star Trek. And so for this season 2, I can't tell you about the episode, but we get to finally work with him. And when I met him, I was like trying to keep it cool, and I did. And I told him, I was just like, you know, I've heard it said that Ortegas is like the Riker of this cast. And he was like, I wasn't going to say it, but that's exactly what I think. And I'm like, oh. And then to be with him on set, I remember at one point we were on the bridge and I'm sitting at the helm and we're blocking a scene, and he was reading the voice of a character who would have been on the view screen, and just his voice is so Commander Riker. And I was like having an out-of-body experience, and I like couldn't look up because if I look up, I'm going to start like looking giddy, and it's going to be very clear that I'm like fangirling. But it was just so surreal to hear his voice, like, you know, just there with me. And I've been very cool on the bridge. Everything has been very, like when I get on the bridge, I'm like, I'm there to work. I'm there to figure out how to fly the ship, and it's very, very professional. But that was the first time I was on the bridge, and I was just like, hee hee. So yeah, but he's been, everything that everybody said about him has been true. He just adds another element of professionalism and playfulness that I have not seen in another director, and it's also Jonathan Frakes. It's Riker. So yeah.
We've got our phasers locked on your warp course, and nothing would make me happier than you giving me an excuse to kick your treacherous Talsiar ass.
Star Trek always brings critical and important subjects to the screen, talks against racism, misogyny, and now all this fight is needed again. How do you see the importance of these new shows of Star Trek for this fight today? And was this something that affected you to choose to be part of it?
One thing that's interesting is, so we're filming season 2, but we're also watching the world watch season 1. It's been so wonderful and interesting, and seeing the way that fans are reacting, you know, to everything. And one of the things that strikes me is how many fans either put it out on social media or send us messages directly where they're saying, you know, they're going through pandemic exhaustion, they're going through grief, they've lost people, all these different things. And they're like, you know, the week could be bad, but knowing that there's a new episode of Strange New Worlds makes me happy. And that seems like a trivial, kind of small, silly thing, but it isn't. I remember when the show was announced during the pandemic in 2020, the fact that the show was going to be made, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I remember I heard about it even before I knew I was going to have anything to do with it, but it was just everybody really being like, here's a show that is going to be about hope and optimism and what we as humanity has the potential for if we work together. It's a future where it's not dystopian and everything has fallen apart. Like, it still obviously struggles across the board, but people work together and there's principles and people have values that they adhere to. And so I remember hearing Anson and Rebecca and Ethan when they spoke about what this show meant and that it was going to be made. And there was just something really, you got tingly inside. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It was almost tangible, like this feeling of like, we're making a very hopeful show that is also really, really well written, and that it almost feels like we need it right now. Not just the word, like we need it, like the cast members need it, the crew need it. Like we all need this show where it like goes back to kind of an old school format of television, of adventure, where it's like every week it's a new adventure, a new world, a new story. And yet it also plays on that serialization, right? So, and you guys have seen that in what you've seen already in season 1, but there's character arcs that are continuing through the episodes, but you still know that every week, it's going to be kind of a new adventure, a new obstacle, and you get to see us engage with each other in different ways, which I think is what fans really love, the camaraderie amongst the crew. And to the point where they're like, I feel like the cast members really love each other. And the answer is yes, like we do. Like we genuinely like hanging out with each other, which was kind of I don't know how the casting directors did that, but they picked just really great people, and we know what we're doing, and we're chill to hang out with. So
what's the mission?
Our mission? We explore.
May I say, I love the show. I'm watching it right now. I'm in love with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I love Star Trek. It's something that made my life as it is. And I believe in that future. I love to believe in that future. We needed shows like this. We needed this show to happen.
You're one of the fans that we thank. You guys, your enthusiasm is truly what made this happen. Like, the studio and everyone saw how everyone reacted to those characters. And that's why I always say, I'm like, fans are an integral part of the show. Like, we're not just making this and you guys are receiving it. Like, you guys are part of the reason that Star Trek is still in existence.
This crew, I believe we can do anything.
Your character, Lieutenant Ortega, has some comedy moments in the shows, not kind of a comedy relief, but she's pranking Uhura, cracking jokes at the helm. But the series has some serious tone too. How does this balance works for you, for the cast? How this works in set?
The way that I originally envisioned it was I actually, so Ortegas, I know that we don't touch on it too much in season 1, but the fact that she has this background as a combat veteran as well as a pilot. I'd spoken to producers and writers about. In my career, I've played a lot of soldiers. Something that I kind of learned from doing it, and also it just makes sense, where it's just like when you're in situations where you are expected to be the best, members of Starfleet should be the best. In episode 2, where they're telling, like, Uhura is like, I wasn't sure I wanted to be here.
I guess the truth is I'm not sure I'm actually all that Starfleet.
Everyone's like, what? It's like, everybody would love to be in your position. And usually they're people who have actually never served at all in the military, but they just like, oh, she's too nonchalant on the bridge, and she's too this and that, and why is she cracking jokes? But the reality is that when you're in a profession or a job, and fans who are in these jobs have validated me in my belief in this, because they're like, this is true. When you're in these situations, you can't constantly be 100% serious, because it's just, you're not gonna last. You need to have a gallows humor. You need to have sarcasm. You need to have a dry wit. You need to be able to joke with your partners when you very well know that tomorrow might be your last day. And the reason that she's able to joke and able to kind of do things off the cuff and is because she is so good at her job. Otherwise she wouldn't still be on the bridge. Otherwise she wouldn't, Pike wouldn't trust her as much as she does. What I try to bring to the role is the reality of what it's like to be a soldier and somebody who knows grief and trauma and has been in battle and knows what it's like to experience, being with somebody one day and having them gone the next. And if you don't joke in times when you can, what is the point of what we're doing? And that kind of is very much Ortegas' character. And you see that in her relationships where she kind of, she's friends with everyone on the ship, unless you really cross her. Like, she has no reason to waste any energy on disliking you, because she doesn't have the energy to waste. Her energy goes to flying the ship and doing her job well. And so you get to see these great interactions with Chapel and Dr. Mabenga and Babs and Jess. I love them both.
So how are we going to play it this time? You want me to keep my communicator on, or do we need a hand signal?
No need.
You're now filming the second season. I don't know if it's already a wrap, but you're nearly finishing the second season. What surprises can we expect for season 2? Special appearances, returning of antagonists from the first, and the future of Lieutenant Ortega.
Yeah, so I can tell you so very little, but I could say, that things that haven't been resolved in season 1, we're gonna see the continuation of that. You're definitely gonna see more sides to Ortegas. You're gonna see more of what she does so well. You're gonna see different different, relationships evolve, which is really exciting. And it's so funny because anytime like we're together in a scene and it's with a character that we don't spend a lot of time with, we get so excited, because we're like, I haven't shot with you in forever. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of kind of new pairings. What else can I say? I'll just say too that like, everyone who wants more Ortegas, which is from what I mean, I'm being very biased because I'm only paying attention to what everyone's saying about me. But like, people want to see more to the point where they're annoyed and everyone's like, we're going to revolt if we don't get an Ortegas episode. And I'm like, everybody just be patient. I'm like, she's busy flying the ship, but she has all these layers that are coming out and it's going to be a big payoff, right? So she doesn't wear her heart on her sleeve. So it's a privilege to learn more about Ortegas, and she's kind of as open as she is. I think she has things under the surface that are going to be coming up, and you're going to see some of that in season 2. And I can't wait for you guys to see. I keep saying like, as wonderful as season 1 is, I actually think season 2 is better somehow. And I think season 1 is perfection. So
get out of our way, or what? You're unarmed.
I've armed myself.
Star Trek has a lot of, since it's the 60s, bring Uhura, Sulu, bring characters, bring diversity to its bridge, to its cast. Discovery is the sign of that. And now in Strange New Worlds, we have almost only women in the bridge.
Right.
How important is to see that in TV today?
It's so funny because when I remember telling someone about the cast, and I remember somebody was like, there's more women on the bridge than men. And I hadn't even really thought about it. But the fact that they had clocked that as an oddity, I'm like, well, there exactly shows why we need to see this change. I want it to be so that it isn't strange when there's more women than men on the bridge. The history of film and television, it's always common to have more men than women. And also in terms of the types of roles that men have historically gotten, it's just been more varied, more nuanced. They're able to be more complicated. They're able to be kind of like, rebels, and they're still loved by audiences. So often it's like a female character isn't perfect, then she's the villain, or she's the opposite of what you want. I want to see more of is roles for women, where women are like actual women in life, where we're nuanced, we're complicated, we're interesting, we're strong, we're powerful. We have all these facets to us because we're human beings, right? Just like guys. And so the funny thing is, and you probably know this as a Star Trek fan, but in the cage, the Pike from the cage, like he has this thing about like, he says like, he's like, I forget what it is, but something about like, too many women, or, I can't, you're different than other women.
She does a good job, all right. It's just that I can't get used to having a woman on the bridge.
So here we are in this version where Pike is, much of the bridge crew that he trusts his ship with are women, and it's never spoken about. It's just normal. And one of the things the producers told me is that what is so important to them is that the bridge of every starship, of every world in Star Trek, reflects the world, right? So the bridge should be a reflection of our world. I think the makeup of the world has never changed. It's just that people are now freer to be themselves and are freer to express themselves. In that way, we're seeing more of that diversity. So Star Trek gives us an ability to literally take off into the future, into space, and still tackle all those topics and show our fans and show the world that like, this is what humanity is, and this is what the future looks like. And our present day can look like it as well, if we all stop kind of making life difficult for each other.
Thank you, Melissa. It's very nice to meet you.
It's wonderful meeting you. Wonderful talking to you. Fantastic questions.